morning, and this is really a pleasure to be again here in Pontignano, seeing so many friends, new friends also coming. And let me single out a particular friend. I was very honored to be part of his group of economic advisors when he was President of the European Commission. I mean, for me, a kind of golden times of the European project. Now we are...
Before Christ.
Now we are in more troubled waters, but I would like really to underline something Francesco said, and our dear rector also underlined, that I really feel that Siena and Pontignano, they are, and they can go on as an inspiring place for something we really need for the next phase of the European project, which is a real European public sphere in space. What do I mean by this? And I'm very grateful that the team in charge was put together the key ingredients for European public space, meaning universities, a brilliant group of experts, students also coming, and then you have cultural foundations, media, and the so-called European political foundations. In my case, I'm representing one of them. We are big 5 European political foundations located in Brussels, in the heart of the European policy making. So our role is really to be part of the European policy making, bridging with the key actors in the Parliament, in the Council, in the Commission. So that's why, and I know this is not easy to bring together all these partners, and this is a big achievement, and we can make the best of this today and until Saturday when we will be together. I also think that the theme which was selected for the conference this time is very well chosen. Landing in the 21st century. Because as our rector was saying, we are still not there. So let me bring the kind of reflections of European Political Foundation I'm chairing in Brussels can elaborate. This means that I'm coming also with questions for yourselves. And the method, as you know, will be focusing on finding new solutions for problems. So I'm coming with my own problems, and then it's up to you to elaborate as you wish. I'm also, of course, building on the concept paper, which was prepared previously. But look, in a nutshell, I think that basically for the next phase of the European project, we are dealing with 3 main issues. One is about what kind of development model we want to have in our continent. The second is how can we reorganize our continent, taking into account that we have a war, and so we need to really to conduct a new big enlargement, but we also need to reorganize ourselves to conduct this big enlargement. And then Europe and the world, because the world is in a radical change. And we cannot, let's say, be distracted by what is happening in our continent, while the main standards for the way we will live are being defined basically by the strategic competition between the United States and China. So Europe needs to rise up and to remain a global actor, influential, also to be part of these, what should be the global governance for the next phase. So on the development model, it seems to me that somehow, in spite of many problems, Europe keeps a leading role of inventing a new development model, taking care, let's say, of people and planet. We need to find a new synergy about this. We have an inspiring concept, well-being, so bridging between people and planet. But in practical terms, this means that even if we are leading in the green transition, we are confronted with many problems. We lack the large-scale, long-term investment capacity to conduct this big transformation. We need to be prepared for many tensions in some regions which are more exposed. And so, more recently, we need to develop an industrial policy to be very proactive in this transition. So many problems are still to be solved. But then we have the digital. And I'm assuming that the digital transformation is the most radical one, because this will transform all areas of our collective and personal life. And here we are lagging behind, clearly, United States and China. More recently, there was an attempt to catch up from the European side. We see a big legislative package being passed, but the key issues are still there to be tackled. What kind of services we'd like to deliver by using digital solutions? What kind of platforms we should develop in Europe? What kind of data management and what kind of algorithms, what kind of AI do you need to promote the kind of life you want to have? And this should be reflected, in fact, not only in new rules, but in a very ambitious capacity building in Europe. I also think that we need a real innovation policy to drive this digital transformation, and we still don't have it. Then, if I move to the second challenge I identified, the enlargement, well, I really think that Europe could unite in front of the war in Ukraine. We are confronted with, let's say, an empire in decline, to make it short words. So we did the right thing when we decided to commit to a new enlargement. This is, from my viewpoint, a moral and political imperative. But I also think that the enlargement will take some time, and we cannot just leave these countries waiting outside. So we need to have a new approach. We need to involve all these countries since the beginning in our European networks, the energy networks, the digital networks, the industrial ones, the financial ones, the research, the education, the culture. So we need to have them on board using all our networks. And that's why I also agree this European political community is an interesting concept. Also because like that we can have more geostrategic coordination regarding war and beyond. But I also, and Francesco referred to this, all the history of the European integration shows that whenever we are conducting an enlargement, we need to find a way to deepen European integration. Now the buzzword is institutional reform, to make sure that we keep our capacity to decide and to act in foreign affairs, in the industrial policy. We do need a certain kind of strategic autonomy. And also, this should be underpinned by a real stronger European budgetary capacity, to give us the capacity to act. And finally, democracy. Yes, because there is an aspiration of deeper democracy at all levels, local, national, be concerned with the rule of law, but also making the European democracy play with more involvement of citizens when the key decisions are taken. So I really think that enlargement should somehow be combined with institutional reform in the European Union. And then my final plea is for us really to assess the state of the world. Because there is only a future for the European project if we start by assessing the state of the world and what kind of role can we play as Europeans. From my viewpoint, we have a visible crisis of the global governance system. When we see in the United Nations the Security Council paralyzed regarding war in Ukraine. And even with the paradox that the aggressor is chairing the Security Council. So this means a lot. We cannot decide about this war in the multilateral system we have. Secondly, we see an attempt of the West regaining leadership. You saw the recent G7 summit, also inviting some others from abroad. But let's look to the facts. G7 corresponds nowadays to 10% of the global population, to 30% of the global economy. I believe it's no longer possible for the West alone to lead the world. And the problem is that we have now the risk of a fragmentation. If we see a BRICS summit be announced for next August in Johannesburg, with an attempt to involve other countries, betting on creating a new development bank located in Shanghai, this is the embryo of a parallel global order. From my viewpoint, we still have time to avert this and to avert the fragmentation of the multilateral system. But for this, we Europeans, we need to be really active and ambitious. And multilateralism, as we know, is in our DNA. And that's why I think that we should be active in creating bridges to other parts of the world, the global south, particularly in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. We need to be extremely active and to build other kind of large coalitions. By the way, I don't believe we can win this war in Ukraine without this larger international coalition. So for me, this is also a big priority to have a real European external action for the 21st century. So this is my suggestion of questions. As I told you, I was just coming with questions. I'm sure that with this brilliant group of experts, with our problem-solving method, we'll come up with great ideas. And so I wish the best for this conference. And you can count on us, European political foundations, to bridge between the conclusion of this conference and then the decision-making in European institutions. So thank you for your attention.